You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. As we just heard, the Little Opera Company presents The Magic Flute, The Trials of Tamino and Pamina, an adaptation of the popular Mozart opera by Canadian John Greer. To learn more about this production, I'm joined by a trio of guests in studio. Director Rob Herriot, Asitha Tennekoon, singing the role of Tamino, and Donnalynn Grillis, our third lady. The character, not because I happened to introduce her thirdly. Good morning to you all. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Good morning, Simon.
So, Rob, let me begin with you, because it seems, especially of late here in Winnipeg, you can't spell opera without Rob. I guess the B is silent. Fresh off back-to-back Manitoba opera productions, which included another Mozart opera with a Canadian influence, the Canuck-style Così. Can you tell us about this unique setting of the Magic Flute done by Canadian John Greer?
Yeah, I mean, we're approaching it from it's a kind of a classical approach in that we want to be fantasy. We want it to be fantastical, and the adaptation is sweet in that it condenses the 3-hour piece into 90 minutes, which is really, really easy to absorb, as it were. But we're giving it a fairy tale twist, really, so that we get these classical fairy tale costumes in this super modern set. When we originally talked about it, I had in mind, because Magic Flute is like, you can either do a storybook production where you have different locations, or you can just make it completely no specific location.
Right.
And so I was looking at the Wieland Wagner productions at Bayreuth in the 60s and kind of getting this weird, interesting setting from those productions. So that's kind of where we landed.
You know, I saw some of the images up on social media, just some quick snaps of the set, like the actual set itself, and it looks really magical. It is understated, but at the same time, it is provocative in a sort of way. And I mean, this is entirely me judging it off of, a couple of Instagram posts. But nonetheless, like, it looks like one of those that's going to draw you in. And like you say, this adaptation, one that makes it very digestible to kind of get to that Little Opera Company sort of approach, right? It is little opera. It's going to be sung in English as well, too, right?
Exactly. The thing about this production that I love is that it takes this beautiful story and this beautiful opera, because it's really spectacular music. It takes it and it puts it into a little package that's totally engaging from start to finish. And that has to do with the cast.
So I couldn't get a better segue than that, so thank you very much, Rob. So let's hear from some of the singers now. Beginning with you, Asitha, you're set to make your little opera debut. How you feeling about it?
It feels great. This is my first opera contract in Winnipeg, too. And it's been a really, really wonderful time. You know, you can do a lot worse than working with Rob Herriot. And it's along with the rest of the company too, it's really good camaraderie. It's really great to see all these people at different stages of the opera industry as well, coming together and putting this show together. So it's been really great.
You've performed across the country with Edmonton Opera, the Canadian Opera Company, Opera Kelowna, Opera de Montréal, and I'm just drawing just a bit from your resume. Winnipeg audiences may have seen you just a few months back performing in town with Musica Intima in a beautiful concert presenting Andrew Balfour's Nagamo. Can you tell us about Tamino, what it's been like getting to know the character and working through his trials?
It's a really fascinating character in that it's something that anyone, I think, can relate to. It's a character who's found himself in this position where he's, for whatever reason, put himself outside of his comfort zone and then is facing all these things that he's never kind of faced before and trying to figure out who he is through that process. And I think that's something we all, at different points in our life, go through as well. So that is very fascinating to me to see as a character, not just the growth, but what causes the growth, what really instigates that shift, those shifts for him as a character too. And that's always, every time I get on stage with this character, it's always a different journey too, because it's live performance. But that I find that really fascinating and fulfilling.
Tamino's a role you've sung before?
Yes.
So have you ever sung this John Greer adaptation in English?
This is the first time I'm doing the John Greer adaptation. I've done another performance of it in English. But yes, this is the first time with the John Greer one.
Does anything change for you as a performer when you go from singing it in the German and the Singspiel to this English condensed presentation? Has your understanding of the character changed at all?
I think so. I think just putting it in English as someone whose first language is English, that immediacy of how you connect to the character shifts, and also just being able to sing in your first language sometimes gives you a little bit more of a. I hesitate to say that it's not. What's the word I'm looking for? It's less official.
Yeah, it's
sounding.
Interesting. It's sort of, I mean, and this is one of the things that I think a lot of us, as audience members, as most people listening will be, it breaks down that wall because, like you say, it is the language that most of us speak first. It is the one that we have the best comprehension of. But for the singers as well, this applies to all across the board. When you take an opera and then put it into the vernacular, it just helps break down those barriers. And I think that this is what Little Opera Company does particularly well, is it makes it very digestible, but it also makes it very, very approachable. We've got another one of our singers here in studio, Donnalynn Grillis, and you'll be singing the role of Third Lady. This is a reprisal for you, isn't it?
It is. I sang this role when we did it back in 2008. We'd like to hear more of me.
Sure would.
Yes. So it's been fun doing it with, there's actually two of us. Margot Harding, who is singing Queen of the Night this time around, she and I were both in the first adaptation that we did of it in 2008.
So how does it feel to return to the role?
Oh, I'm much more tired. Yes. No, I love working with Rob. You know, he always has his singers doing wonderful things on stage. It's always a joy to work with him. And as Asitha was saying, the cast is wonderful. It's very collegial, and we're having a great time. But we are ladies. There are three ladies, and then we're also the spirits. So we're constantly changing back and forth, and I'm finding it a little tiring.
I think that's totally understandable. You know, I was going to bring that up, is the fact that, you know, you're billed as Third Lady, but you're also one of the child spirits, one of the boys. Can you remind listeners of this is sort of as it's dubbed here? Can you remind listeners of these two characters and the two groups that they're a part of and how they drive things forward?
It's interesting because without us, the opera won't go forward.
Exactly. They bring the drama and they help through the drama, don't they?
We do, because we provide the tools. One, we provide the flute and the bells in order for both Tamino and Papageno to get through their various trials. And we're also there as rescuers when needed. So we actually have something to do with each and every one of the characters to aid in bringing everyone together to the happy ending that we have. So it's wonderful. It's really been enjoyable to do the journey again and to sort of realize over again just, you know, how important we are.
And they totally are important. Like, and the number of scenes that they're in, I kind of, we were in rehearsal last night. I thought, oh, here they come again.
That's what we're saying too. Here we go again. But are we a spirit or a lady?
They're amazing. The harmonies that you guys have are incredible because we don't have a lot of that in this piece.
That's true. That's true.
Now, one last word to you here, Rob, because I do want to talk more about we sort of heard about, to me, this is one of those works that is very approachable, as we've talked about, but also one that we can relate to. As Asitha was just saying, this is not one of those operas that's just about love, I say in air quotes, but it's also about challenges and adversities and overcoming them. Do you feel like there's something that everybody can take away from this production?
Absolutely. I think the overall message of this, and in any Magic Flute that I approach, is that there is a sense of growth, human growth, the journey to enlightenment, to be the better person, to search and strive and fall down and get back up. There's a great, and I will sort of give a rough translation. When the padlock is put on the mouth, says, if every liar could be padlocked, the world would be a better place. And there's, at this point in history, I don't think a truer statement has ever been made. That's why I love the piece. I think it says more than many operas, actually, because it is about that journey to being the better person.
What a way to leave this conversation. The John Greer adaptation of the Magic Flute, The Trials of Tamino and Pamina, opens on Friday. 2 performances, Friday, Saturday, 7:30 p.m. There's a matinee on Sunday at 2. All performances taking place at the Manitoba Theatre for Young People, which is such a great venue, isn't it? I mean, it feels like the right size. It just, again, I'm very thrilled with how this has all come together. And you can feel the joy and the camaraderie that you all bring to this production. And I'm sure that is felt across the cast. So why not check out the show? littleopera.ca, the place to go for details. We've also got information up at classic107.com under the events tab. Thank you all for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
you.